Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Life Lessons Inside of Movies. And since it's the Christmas season, I thought I might as well bring you guys one of my favorite holiday movies of all time, the 1984 George C. Scott, A Christmas Carol. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already know the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, because, it's been adapted I don't know how many different times, but I'm going to give you guys a quick recap. So, spoiler warning, always be safe throughout the video. This is a story about Ebenezer Scrooge. He's old, he's grouchy, he's a bitter old man, he's very greedy, hates his nephew, hates Christmas, hates anything that's joyful. Well, he ends up having a work partner that dies. 7 years later, the work partner comes to him as a ghost and tells him, you need to change your ways. Because if you don't, you are going to severely pay for it in the afterlife. So then he's visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, future, changes his life for the better, ends up being this awesome person, and it's basically a Christmas movie. Now, when I first saw this movie, I first thought it was very, very dark. But as the older I got, I kind of realized that this is a story about what motivates people to do whatever it is that they're doing, and then ultimately what motivates people to change. So the number one life lesson in this movie is, like I said, what motivates you. Because when you first see Ebenezer Scrooge, the story drops you off when he's already grouchy. He's old, he's bitter, he's set in his ways. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys can relate to at least someone that's like that, where you just don't like hanging around them, their vibe is bad, they're always negative, and it's just an awful feeling, you just don't want to be around them. But what you have to understand is that no matter who you meet, no human being was ever born full of hatred, full of bitterness. As they've kind of gone through the journey of life, life has punched them in certain ways that they don't know how to respond, so that's basically the outcome of life. So the ghost of Christmas past ends up coming to him, takes him, and then you find out that his mom died during his childbirth. So because of that, his dad rejected him. And then finally, once he was old enough and his sister ends up telling him, convincing her dad, hey, you should bring him back. All of a sudden his dad's like, well, you're going to go to work. I raised an apprenticeship. That's what you're going to go do. So then he starts to work to please his dad. Well, along that time, he ends up meeting a girl, falls in love. The next year, she breaks up with them on Christmas because he's spending more time at his job than he is with her. So right then, intellectually and emotionally, whatever you want to say, he ties in work with pleasure because it makes him feel secure about himself because that's what his dad wanted him to do. And he ties in Christmas and love with pain. So now when you look at him in the future and you got years and years of building on top of that, you understand why he only wants to focus on his job. He wants to focus on his dollar figure rather than mankind, rather than his nephew, because this is another thing, life has a weird way of constantly working in rotations. In the movie, his dad rejects him because his mother died during childbirth. His nephew is constantly coming around at the beginning, and you're kind of wondering, why is he ignoring his nephew? Well, later on, you find out that his sister, the only girl that he's ever really loved, died during childbirth, giving birth to his nephew. So it's kind of like the sins of the father follow. You guys follow me? All right. Now, the number two life lesson in this movie is do not be blind to what's around you. Especially Americans, we got a tendency to do this, to where we collecting data every day. We're trying to figure out what this thing of life is. And we understand our house, our job, our commutes, our family, that is life for us. But what you have to realize is that life is so broad, life is so open-ended, that there are people out there that are not blessed like you. In the movie, they ask him to donate money to this charity. And then he says, well, are there no workhouses? Are there no jails? I'm taxed for them. I know these places exist. So why are you asking me money to help these people to eat when I know that all these places exist? It's not until the Ghost of Christmas Present takes him and it actually shows him how these places work when he realizes, oh, these places are brutal. Shoot, I wouldn't even want to go there either. I'd rather starve and steal my way through this life than having to go to these places. So when he finally realized it, it's because he finally saw it. Now for you guys, understand that there's poverty out there. That there's people out there in need. That there's people out there that are less fortunate than you. Now don't be blind to this idea of, because I don't see it, it's not there. It's there. And I imagine that if a lot of you guys, including me sometimes, I'll be honest, there's sometimes where I kind of forget how blessed I am. But if you were to realize that there are people out there that are suffering, you would be more grateful. And along with that, you'll be more willing to help. And that also leads me to my number 3 life lesson, which is money. I read this book a while ago. It was written by Bob Proctor. It was called You Were Born Rich. In the book, at the very beginning, he talks about a man that he worked as a janitor. And he's working as a janitor. One day, he just didn't show up for work. They go into his apartment. They found out that he died. So they take him out. They're going through his place. And out of nowhere, they notice that he had over $100,000 saved up in the back. And the ironic thing is that even though this man had money, he still lived the life of a poor man. Now, Ebenezer Scrooge, yes, he has money. Yes, he's a wealthy business person. Yes, everybody knows who he is. But he lives the life of a poor man. He doesn't turn on the heat. He doesn't turn on the fire. He is very stingy with his money. He doesn't want to share with anybody. He has no one living at his house with him. He lives a very sad, cold, lonely life. Now, the purpose of this is that money is meant to serve. If we have money and we're constantly being stingy and greedy with it, life will reward us the same way. But if you donate to charity, Christmas season is coming around, we all know that feeling when you give someone a present and it's something that they really wanted and that smile on their face and they don't even know how to react and it absolutely warms your heart. So for you guys, also remember that if you're very stingy with money, it will do the opposite effect because you will live the life of a poor man. Now, the number 4 life lesson, don't think you're better than everybody else. In the movie, he ends up talking about how people need to go on with death to decrease the surplus population because it makes it easier on the rest of us. But here was the kicker that I really found out in the movie, is at the end when the Ghost of Christmas Future comes and they show basically the reaction to his death. Nobody mourns for him. And he's telling Death, I want to see someone with compassion. There's got to be someone that's sad for this man. So he takes him to another boy, which was Tiny Tim, a kid that had polio, a kid that was born poor, a kid that had nothing. But he was seeing an entire family that mourned for this little boy, but yet no one mourned for him. That's the ironic thing with death, is death will expose who cares for you and who doesn't care for you. And along with that, just because you have a job title, just because you're making an X amount of money, just because you have a degree, doesn't mean you're better than everybody else. In fact, and this is the one thing that the movie showed me, you can be the most successful person in the world, but you can also be the most loneliest person in the world. Success, job titles, degrees don't mean humanity. Don't mean that you built connections, that you built rapport, that you built love with other people. Now, lastly, number 5 life lesson in this movie, and this was the first life lesson that I ever got, especially from a movie. And this is what gets people to change. They take him through his entire story. Ghost Christmas past, present, and future. Now, here's the one thing that I notice, is that when they go to his past, and he sees everything, he gets angry with the results. Which I'm pretty sure naturally, if I were to talk to you guys about your past, you would get angry. You would look at missed opportunities. You would look at people that were being mean to you. You would look at I can't believe that happened to me, and it ticks you off. But then he goes to the Ghost of Christmas Present, where they show everything around him. And it's one of those things where when you open up your eyes and you see life, it kind of puts you in your place a little bit. You realize that life is grand, life is broad. But here was the thing that really caught me throughout the movie. His past didn't change him. His present didn't change him. What was the ultimate defining factor that changed his life forever? The future. Now, what does the future hold for you? That's the thing a lot of people don't think about. We like to look at, like I said, our past. We like to look at our present. But if you can really analyze the future and realize what can happen, that's the ultimate motivation. Because right now it's life. We're already living through it. Okay, it's bad, but it's not the best thing ever. We look at our past. It's over with. I don't want to look at it. But if you think of what the future has to hold, and that's the inevitable. That is the omega. You realize that I'm going to have to go through this. And whether it's good, whether it's bad, you don't know. But if you kind of have an idea of, oh crap, maybe that will change you. So whenever you're dealing with someone, whenever you're dealing with your own problems and you don't have any motivation, you're very grouchy, you're procrastinating, think about what the future has to hold. 10 years of sitting on the couch, 10 years of being a failure, 10 years of not doing anything with your life and your life's at a stagnant. That will motivate anybody. Now, I don't mean to leave this video off on a very dark note, but I just want to say that these were the life lessons that I got in this movie. Now, when I first saw it, like I said, I was a kid. It was a very dark movie because it's very real. It forces you to face the idea that, yes, it's the Christmas season, but there's a lot of stuff you need to change. There's a lot of stuff that's around you that you may close your eyes off to, but it's life. So, these are my life lessons inside of A Christmas Carol. Now, before I say anything else, I just want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. And as always, hit me up on Twitter. Maybe you guys saw this movie. Maybe you guys caught something that I may have missed. And remember, guys, not all movies are meant to entertain us. Some are made to teach us. So once again, I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. I hope you guys take what I said to heart. Because especially we're going into the new year, maybe you want to change something. Maybe you need motivation. And along with that, maybe there's someone out there that needs a helping hand. And all it takes is for you to stretch your arm out. So until next time, thank you guys for listening.